Welcome to the Astro Priestesses Roundtable. We are so excited to be with you again, especially with everything that's coming up and what we get to talk about, the December solstice and so many other amazing things. I'm Kaylin. I'm here with Nura Rochelle and Mar Guerrero and Jamie Goldstein. And we have so much great information to share with you. So I'm going to start with talking about the December solstice. And the reason I love talking about this is because where the December solstice sun rises currently, and something to know, is solstice literally means sun stands still. The sun stands still for exact same place for 3 days, and around 3 weeks, it's in a very close to the same place. It's just like kind of paused on the horizon. And so this is a time that ancient cultures would look at a new moon or a full moon closest to the solstice, and they would do their biggest celebrations and things around that. Now, something that astronomers and astrologers, tropical astrologers, agree on is that the 0 Capricorn point marks the December solstice. So when the sun reaches 0 Capricorn, we have in the northern hemisphere the longest night and the shortest day. And that it's really signaling a new solar year starting, a new year starting, and many cultures celebrated it as a new year point. Now we have January 1st as sort of an arbitrary date, whole other story. But so we've got this solstice coming up on December 21st. Now, interesting, I went and looked for till 2042. The December solstice is on December 21st in the time zone I live in, Mountain Time. So sometimes it might be late in the day, so it might be the next, like super early in the morning on the 22nd. But for the most part, it's going to be on the 21st for those who live in the Western time zones until 2042. And sometimes it'll be a little bit different time or different date, depending if you're living further east of that time zone. So the 0 Capricorn point is currently located on what we call the galactic cross. So this is the place where the plane of our solar system crosses the plane of our galaxy. So it forms a cross in the sky. So the plane of the solar system crossing the plane of the galaxy. And this particular place where it crosses, there's 2 places. This is between the Archer and the Scorpion, the constellations of the Archer and the Scorpion. And it's also right near galactic center, the center of our galaxy. And so the sun to be here at this time is remarkable. It only can happen every 25,920 years. We round it up to 26,000 because it's a little easier to say. So every 26,000 years, we'll go through a galactic new year like we're going through now. And because these points precess 1 degree every 72 years, the center point was calculated by an astronomer named Jean Meuse, who decided that it was 1998. That was when it was exactly on the center point of the cross. The sun was on the center point of the cross. So if you put 72 years before that, this started in 1926. And if you put 72 years after that, then it would end in 2070 to have it within 1 degree of that exact cross. Now, if you took and put 36 years on either side of it, or created a 72-year window, 1962 to 2034, we are in the center point of this great galactic year. And this is what Plato called it the galactic year, or the great year. He called it the great year. So we have this great year happening. So every December solstice is really important. And it also means that the June solstice, we'll talk about this probably when we get closer to that time, is happening on the galactic cross at the opposite side, and where we're looking out past our galaxy, at the edge of our galaxy. So and every 13,000 years, they change places. So we get to be alive at this time. We are here to be the transition team, to be the change agents, to be the ones who are helping with this transition into this great galactic year, this new 26,000 year cycle. So we're kind of at the end and beginning. The other cycle hasn't completely ended yet. We're still kind of trying to clean up the mess of that. and the new one hasn't fully started yet. It's like that overlapping piece. And so each solstice is so important. And this particular solstice We have a new moon within 2 days of the exact solstice, meaning that the sun is still very close on the cross. And here's the thing, the sun is on the cross for 3 days. That might remind you of a story, the sun on the cross for 3 days. And but it's actually near the cross for 3 weeks, so it's really hanging there on that galactic cross for quite a while. Then we have this new moon in Capricorn on December 23rd, and it happens to be a perigee new moon. That means that the moon is closest to the earth. It means that it's having the most dramatic effect on the tides and the volcanoes and the tectonic plates. And, so high tides are higher. Weather systems tend to be more extreme when we have a perigee new moon or a perigee full moon. And I just looked it up today. I was just curious because I was like, so we had a perigee new moon in November, towards the end of November, and we've had like 31 volcanoes going off in the last like couple weeks. So that just gives you a sense of how powerful this is. And so it affects us too. We're affected by this. A new moon and a full moon anyway is always a big time. And one close to the solstice like this is always a big deal. So we are planting the seeds of a 26,000 year galactic year and of the coming solar year as we go, as we move into the year 2023. And so the perigee, it's not only a perigee new moon having a powerful effect on the earth, and many astrologers and astronomers call it a supermoon because it has a super big effect on the earth. But they also, it's also an out of bounds moon. Now, what I mean by that is the moon is outside the boundaries of the sun. So the sun has like a pendulum swing up and down the horizon. So at the equinoxes, it's rising exactly due east and due west. But at the solstices, it's either furthest north, June solstice, or furthest south, December solstice. And it has like a, depending on where you live, how far it can be, but it's about a 23.5 degree range. The planets can go outside of that. So that means they're outside the boundaries of our physical reality, or what we consider to be our everyday reality. And so they are considered a wild card. So interestingly, the Mars has been out of bounds since October, will be out of bounds until May. So we've got this wild card factor that's already been going on. The moon is going out of bounds twice a month, whenever it's in Cancer or Gemini Cancer and Sagittarius Capricorn. So this is also, this out of bounds moon is creating another wild card, or like, something that is beyond what we normally think of, or what we normally think is our reality, which is great because then we can start dreaming past whatever it is that we've been conditioned into. And here's the thing about Capricorn. It has had sort of a shadow expression in our culture. Work hard, be successful, make money. It's also been about a disconnect from the earth and how we can work with the earth. So it's the wisdom of Capricorn, which is in ancient cultures was the grandmothers, the grandfathers, the elders, the wise ones who would always help guide and direct where a tribe or a culture or society was going. We don't really honor that anymore. So we're not tapping into Capricorn wisdom. And we've been conditioned into what I like to call the doing addiction. I have it bad. So that's why I like to talk about it, because it's like reminds me to think, oh yeah, I don't have to, my worth and my value is not determined by how much I accomplish and achieve, it's by the fact that I am. And I feel like Capricorn being an earth sign, that is its essence. It's not about like making a lot of money or being super successful or having a big name or any of those things. Those are great things as long as you're doing them and it's not harming anyone or the earth. And so that's where Capricorn gets out into distortions. The other thing I learned about Capricorn, and I was involved in transcendental meditation when I was young. I was 19, I went to the college in Fairfield, Iowa. And Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who founded the whole transcendental meditation movement, was a triple Capricorn. And his favorite statement was to say, do less, accomplish more. from a place of consciousness. When we are in alignment and in the flow, we don't have to work so hard. But again, it's hard for us to do that. So it's like, so how do we get to that consciousness? Another Capricornian statement I love is done is better than perfect. Because there can tend to be a sense of needing to be perfect or have things be perfect. And sometimes they never get done as a result. So another way I've said that done is better than perfect. Fun is better than perfect. Having more fun. So if it's fun, if you're having fun doing it, then you're on the right track. And, you know, it's not that work is a bad thing. It's just like if you have people who have eating addiction, it's not that eating's bad. We need to eat to survive. We need to do things to engage this reality. But the if it's out of balance, that's the problem. And that, you know, doing because we feel like we have to, because we should, because we've been conditioned to. So how do we step back from that? How do we come to a place where we can get the most effective results with the least amount of effort? That is the Capricorn mystery. So that's what I really want to imagine that we're seeding at this time, is how do we answer that question for ourselves? How do we have the most fun, get the best results, and with the least amount of effort? And it's sustainable. That's the other thing, because Capricorn loves that too. Anyway, so right after the new moon, we have the moon coming to be with Venus for the first time, and she's been in her Capricorn cycle. So all of these things about Capricorn are just have been on the world stage for this last year. And she's really about honoring the grandmothers, the grandmother wisdom, the wise woman wisdom that's within us. So this is what we have the opportunity to do now. And the moon comes to meet her on December 24th. It will be still out of bounds, the moon. Venus is just coming back into the boundaries of the sun and at the root chakra. So how are we rooting, grounding, and connecting to the earth? And followed by that, she's very close to Pluto. She started this cycle with Pluto. I think Nora's going to speak a little bit more about that. And then Mercury will go retrograde in Capricorn with Pluto, and Pluto and Venus will be conjunct at the end of the year on December 31st into January 1st. So they are walking us into the new year. So what is it that we can let go of so that we can be more effective and more efficient, have more fun, and really create a new earth reality in a way that works for ourselves, each of us, and everyone else? So I'm just going to leave this here. But the other thing is acceptance. And I did say in the last video, accept what is and trust the universe. And I've been working a lot on acceptance. And sometimes I notice I resist accepting, and then I resisting that I'm not accepting. So I'm going to put in the show notes a link to a talk that a woman named Tara Brock gave that is about acceptance. And genuine acceptance is called, and it's so good. And I think it really helps us to tune into these mysteries. And I'm going to end with this quote, and then I'm going to hand it off. So this, she said, if you let go a little, you will experience a little peace. If you let go a lot, you will experience a lot of peace. If you let go absolutely, you will experience absolute peace and tranquility. And I feel like that's a great intention for all of us to have. So with that, I'm going to hand this off to Mar.
Amazing. Thank you for everything. And it's so funny that you were talking about volcanoes, where volcanoes are not that fun, but I have a card of my table that is Pele from this morning that I had a session, and she came up, and it was exactly what I wanted to talk about. That is the new moon with Capricorn, with all this solstice energy still squaring Jupiter in Aries. Aries Capricorn is the energy of a volcano, because it's like all that fire that it was there, and then there has all this difficulty to come out in a way. But then at the same time, Capricorn give us the structures to be able to contain that fire and to know what is it that we are truly passionate about. Because any square is always a tension, but it has a lot of creative power. And it's the same with a volcano, right? Like we destroy, it's exactly what Kylie was saying, like we let go to have new earth. So the lava is destroying the earth to create new earth. And the Jupiter in Aries is a 12-year cycle. So it's very interesting to go back to wherever you were doing in 2010 in June. And in my case, I moved to Thailand, and it was such an Aries thing to do. And I came back 12 years afterwards. So it's really interesting to see these cycles that are big. And then at the same time, the Capricorn and the Aries wisdom have been, both of them, very distorted by patriarchy. Because as Kajelin was saying, Capricorn is the wisdom of the land. And for me as a Capricorn moon, many times my wisdom doesn't come from downloads, it comes from uploads. It's like rooting into the earth and feeling what the earth is saying through me, and how sometimes when we are truly passionate about something, if it's long-term, Capricorn knows how to see that long-term vision to sustain the energy. In fact, like athletes, normally they need to have a amount of Capricorn because one thing is to have the energy of Aries, and another thing is to be able to have the discipline of Capricorn to bring forward businesses, to bring forward projects that really take care of the earth for the long term and the seven generations to come. And that square is that force of nature of being able to say, okay, this is my passion. This is the wild self that is Aries, that is very primitive in a way. It doesn't understand logic, and it's just that knowing of, from my guts, I have to do this. So our Jupiter now, in wherever we have Aries, is going to say to us, you need to be brave to be yourself. And Aries doesn't care about what other people think. And healthy Aries is just super spontaneous. It's just, I just say this because I feel like saying this. And the Capricorn is sustaining that. It's like creating the structures for the Aries to be able to show up. And when they work together, it's magical because they're able to really create a lot of very tangible things. And for me, Capricorn is the wisdom of the master of creation, in a way, in the tangible way. Because in Sag, we have the vision. In Capricorn, we make it a reality. And then in Aquarius, we think about the future, and then we dissolve. But in Capricorn, we're creating for the culture. And we are in a moment that the culture, we can see that it doesn't serve anymore. So that square is telling us, how are we creating that? And for me, a question that is always very important with Capricorn is, what is your mountain? What is the project that only you can bring into life? And how willing are you to make it a reality? What are you willing to sacrifice in the process? And how can you make it fun, as well, as Kajelin was saying? Because healthy Capricorn enjoys the ride. It's like, for me, sometimes as a Capricorn moon, when something comes too easy, I'm like, yeah, that wasn't that. And it's just that the challenge is interesting. And for Capricorn people, the challenge is nice. So it's so interesting that in the Christmas period, that we are all thinking about the projects for 2023, is the Capricorn season of planning the year. And everyone, even when they are not like they are not connected with astrology, everyone is doing that at this time. Like we are all planning our 2023. How can we do it from a space of wisdom, experience, passion with the Jupiter in Aries, and at the same time, patience? That is also a very important Capricornian word. And we have still Mars retrograde until January 12th. So even if Jupiter comes into Aries, Mars is saying there are things still to look up, like in Gemini, and Gemini can be distracted. So we can still take it easy, and then we will have Mercury retrograde. So I feel that all this planning will come forward in the next new moon in Aquarius. So there is no rush to make things happening, but then at the same time, enjoy the Aries passion. That is such a, I don't know, I'm very happy with that change of energy. With, I love Pisces, but it's like we need a little bit of fire in the sky. And I'm very happy about this movement and momentum to make things reality as well. And sometimes, and with this I will end, that with the spirituality, sometimes we can stay in the quantum, but to really bring it to the 3D, we need some Capricorn energy in the world, healthy wisdom of the land and the experience. So with this, I will, and Nora will talk about that, Venus as well, bringing more Capricorn and all of this energy.
Yes, thank you. Wow, Kaylin and Maud, I feel like I was taken on a journey through what both of you shared. And I guess that's how I'm feeling in general about life right now. Like, it is such a journey that we're on. Really, I think just holding space and appreciation and reverence for really where we are and what we're doing. Like, both Jamie and I had earlier pulled the Wheel of Fortune card for this reflection on the Capricorn season and the solstice. And it's very much, you know, the whole wheel is shifting, but like Kaylin brought up, you know, this center, this cross, there's so much focus and attention on like, what is at the center of all of this, of all of why you build anything. It's that big why. And I feel like so much of it always comes back to, we chose to be here. We're here at a very important time. These seeds that we're planting, we get such a luscious, I feel like that's the word, we get this luscious seeding time. So it's like we get to feel the inspiration with the Jupiter in Aries, but we get to actually hold it within ourselves until Mars stations direct and let it really germinate, especially with Venus really actually helping us to reclaim something in our root. That's really how I see it with the evening star. It's like in the morning star part of the cycle, it's releasing and getting rid of the falsehoods and illusions and distortions. And we've been doing that in Capricorn, which also has affinity with the root chakra, this ability to feel sustainable and safe and grounded and contribute from a practical, wise space. But we've been releasing over these past 9, 10, 11 months, if I can do math right now. And so we got to completely die to that. And maybe we felt like we're in this sort of mushy chrysalis, you know, caterpillar, like, whoa, what is this weird liquid that I'm in inside this chrysalis? And now we're kind of re-blossoming as these butterflies transformed. But with space, like, we don't have to rush it. We get to make sure, okay, these questions of the root, what do I belong to? Maybe these grander cosmic stories. And what am I also reclaiming that are my resources? This kind of touches to this North Node and Uranus in Taurus, like, what is mine? There's going to be some trine action between Taurus and Capricorn during the season. So it does feel like we get to have this ease and flow of really knowing what our resources are, really taking stock of our inventory and not feeling shy to claim what is ours. That feels like a big part of this time, because when we can claim what is ours, I do feel like we're able to step up and step forward with more confidence and more responsibility, which feels like a very healthy expression of Capricorn. So I'm personally feeling very excited about this time. I also have a Capricorn stellium, so I'm very much about like, yes, what are these structures? And also, how can we reclaim the joy of Capricorn and it not be the distorted version? So we might still be, you know, exploring that within ourselves. I think whenever we're on a spiritual path, we always get to this point where we're like, oh, I think I've cleared all the distortions. And then you're like, wait, there's like a whole lifetime more. it gets it clear, but how much more spacious life becomes and how much more enjoyable creation becomes, and how much better every day feels when you have that faith, that ability to generate evidence, which is a Capricorn function. Like, I'm going to generate evidence that having faith and choosing to be happy is good, is working for me, even if I can't always prove it. Right? That's another side of the Capricorn. I want to prove everything about what I know or can see, taste, touch, and feel. But what if I can prove it to myself that me having faith is working? That might be enough to kind of get us through the uncertainty of these times. And so then what are the daily slow actions that we can take? So I wanted to bring in the Venus with Pluto, because she's going to form a conjunction with Pluto again within 2 degrees of where she did the same last year. So it was last year, it was December 12th, which is a 12/12 portal, very special day. It's also my birthday. And so I remember that Venus Pluto conjunction intensely last year. And I remember, since we were about to shift into a new Venus cycle, everything was changing. So maybe think back to that time for you last year, and how were you starting to shift more into the Capricorn cycle? And then since then, what have you released? The distortions that you've released in relation to Capricorn, maybe in what you're building and creating. And Venus with Pluto is always about this transformational process. It's always about death and rebirth. And I think cyclical wisdom, awareness that everything has its divine time, its divine place. And that, especially with Capricorn, there's a lot of this feminine leadership. Even if you look around, like if you kind of track on social media and the trends, and how even as a collective we start to have a story, like even if you're following like what people are advertising, like so much of it is around feminine empowerment, women in leadership, how to start a business as a woman and not be hustling and grinding in the old paradigm way, but to do it in a way that is joyful and spacious. And like, how would you want to leave a legacy behind for the future generations of women in leadership? Do you want to be like ground down to the bone and exhausted at the end of the day? Or do you want to have space for your families and your relationships? So that's really, I feel, very central for me with this Venus and Pluto, and has been for the past year. And then now we get to have this Venus reconnecting with Pluto at 27 degrees of Capricorn, which is, we're getting to these final degrees of the sign of Capricorn, which is very Saturnian also, these endings of these cycles. So it feels like we get to reconnect with this part, but almost like to say goodbye, like a thank you, goodbye, like thank you for all of the hustling that all of my ancestors did actually have to do so that I could be here and have the absolute privilege and blessing and grace to be able to take more space and slow down and stand up with more courage and boldness. I think there's a lot of this thanking and gratitude that gets to happen with this. And so what does that look like for you? Really honoring and celebrating your accomplishments as well. Then she's going to be moving into Aquarius pretty shortly after, January 2nd. And this is going to be interesting because we're shifting from that trine to the North Node to instead a square to the North Node. And so it does feel like it might start to illuminate again those creative tensions of, okay, so now that I'm aware of what I have, I've taken stock of my inventory. Now, what is this creative tension? What is it showing me and offering me around how I get to now do things with my communities and the humanity? Like, how can I kind of come into more objective co-creation with Venus and Aries? That feels really big. And of course, Venus will be squaring Uranus and Taurus as well. So it does feel like we might be having more of an opportunity to realign our values with the future that we want to create, but also be able to hold space for what we don't actually know yet. Because there's also that Aquarius, like unknown factor, the future. Everybody kind of has a slightly different vision for the future. We might have really strong judgments around some of those things, but there might be more information. And I think there's a space for a little bit more of this reconciliation, especially since the Venus Sun superior conjunction occurred at 29 degrees Libra. That's really kind of holding a bit of this undertone energy within the second half of Venus's cycle, where I think we're going to have more conversations, maybe a little bit more space for just seeing things from the other side that actually can fuel our creativity and our co-creativity and help us maybe feel a little bit more safe and sovereign and know that we're safe to go through all of this. So I'm feeling I'm very much looking forward to this Capricorn season, and as we shift into this new year. And I think it's such a good time to be more in the receptive intention energy, rather than like I have to force through this and like decide and like have all these New Year's resolutions. Maybe it's just like my intention is what I want to feel. I want to feel grounded. I want to feel at peace. I want to feel spacious and calm and loving. And maybe that is as much of an intention as we require. And then we're so open to receive all this magic and this wisdom that is being, I love, as you said, Maud, uploaded. It's like we're getting it from both angles. It's uploaded and it's downloaded. And I think it meets right here. Right? It meets right in the middle. Okay, thank you so much for listening. And I am going to pass it over to Jamie.
Oh, thank you so much, Nora. And I just felt my whole body kind of and exhale as you were sharing about perhaps the intention is just being and feeling and being more love and more receptive. And I literally just did a it felt really good. And oh, it's just been such a delight to listen to all of you beautiful priestesses. I'm getting all sorts of little light bulb moments just listening to everyone. So it's so powerful. And so, something really interesting about this Capricorn new moon just after the solstice is it's at 1 degrees of Capricorn, and it's also with the goddess Hygeia. She's at 1 degrees of Capricorn with this new moon as well. And she's the healing goddess, particularly about preventative healing. And I feel like there's so much healing potential with this Capricorn new moon. And in Capricorn, it's healing that comes from the wisdom of the ancestors, right? The wisdom of the grandmothers, the wisdom of the earth, the wisdom from the roots and the soil and the trees and the plants, the wisdom that comes from our body. So there's so much healing potential that I see available with this new moon, especially with the solstice time, right? Like as Kaylin said, solstice, sun stands still to pause and to be and see what healing is there for us to receive. And also with this new moon with the sun square Jupiter, I'm like enacting this astrology chart with my hands. This is about as well a message that's coming to me. Jupiter and Aries being very much about self-identity. We're expanding past these old identities and just weaving in a lot of what everyone was sharing. These old identities of where have we been holding these distortions about from the dominator culture around distortions around feeling like we are what we're accomplishing and what we're achieving and how well we're doing it, because that is not our worth. Our worth is something that is not at all related to any of that. Our worth is eternal, and it comes from within, where our worth is intrinsic to us as who we are as these sacred, precious human beings. And so I see really this powerful energy to expand past these distorted identities. And like Mars shared about connecting, to me, Aries is like that. It's consciousness experiencing itself, to experience ourselves more from essence, free of some of these like maybe rigid identities that maybe we've gotten, and then we can tap into that Aries magic that Mar was talking about, the spontaneity. And the Aries is like, wow, I just have the whole world at my fingertips because we're free of some of that rigid conditioning. And just the themes that everybody's been sharing, actually on December 24th, Venus comes back to 18 degrees of Capricorn, where she met the sun. I believe it was January 8th, 2022, where there was that Venus star point there. And, when Venus went retrograde, as several spoke to, and this that kind of was initiating the beginning of the cycle, she started conjunct Pluto, and she made 3 passes to Pluto through her retrograde journey. So a big theme of this Venus cycle is we are transforming, we are letting die where the old paradigm, the old dominator culture has been living within us, and where from, from an unconscious place with the conditioning, where we've been playing out the dominator culture within us, we're letting that die and we're transforming that. And just this big message that's coming to me with this Capricorn season is Mars is completing the retrograde journey this Capricorn season. Mars will station direct on January 12th, and Mars has been in Gemini. And so there's this energy of we've been with Venus starting, Venus is in a Capricorn cycle. So we're transforming where the dominator culture has been living within us. And we're learning to create from this place of being, in the flow of life. Like, to me, Venus is the receptivity principle. She's how open are we to the flow of life when we're just in our essence. And we're open when we're in our Venus nature, that's our being nature. We're just open to receive the flow of life. So we're learning how to create from this place, as opposed to the old paradigm where we're over efforting and doing and working and forcing and willing, it's like that more work, more results kind of energy. We're reorienting all of that and how to create from more of a place of flow in alignment with our frequency. And this Mars retrograde is helping us reorient that. It's almost like the message is like, we can't, the old ways of overexerting our energy, over efforting, it's like all of that is reorienting, and we're learning how to create our lives from this place of being, receptivity, and flow. And an energy of Capricorn is, there's this energy of sustainability and conserving. So where is it in alignment to conserve our energy, to not overexert, to not over effort, and then getting into more of that yin state, and then able to just receive what's here for us. There is an abundance for us to receive in every moment, just when we're open and available to it. And Capricorn is living in alignment with nature's principle. So it's honoring where are we at in our cycle with nature, and really honoring that. And how I think this Mars retrograde is tying in is we're reorienting the stories, right? Mars retrograde in Gemini, the stories about how we take action. I call Mars the planet of conscious, inspired action. So we're reorienting our stories around how we take action in the world. We're aligning with higher frequencies. Mars has been not the whole retrograde, but Mars has been making a trine with Saturn and Aquarius, and these 2 planets together can kind of be that like go-getter energy. And Saturn is completing its stay in Aquarius. So we're learning how to ground in higher frequencies with Saturn and Aquarius. And now Mars making that trine, this retrograde, we're just reorienting. We're pulling our energy back where we've been scattering, over efforting, pulling it back, rewriting our stories around how we take action in the world. And then our action can flow from our heart essence, right? This is like the Venus-Mars alignment, when our aligned action is coming from this place of being. And so, and one of the other things that's, coming to me around this Venus energy, resistance, is something I've been exploring a lot. And Kaylin, you brought up resistance as well. When we're really in our essence, when we're in alignment with our essence, anything that's resistance is going to kind of pull us out of our essence. So we might find ourselves wanting to over effort, overwork, and it's going to pull us out of our essence. So when we're really in our essence, if we have resistance, it's informing us, maybe we're falling into the old paradigm, right? But when we're out of our essence, out of alignment, sometimes resistance might want to pull us back in to our essence. So these are just been kind of, it's just kind of an idea I've been musing on. But there's these really powerful themes of coming into alignment with our essence and just creating, just being, opening up to the flow of life from that place. And this Mercury goes retrograde December 29th at 24 Capricorn, and will be retrograde through January 18th, I believe. And Mercury stations retrograde conjunct Venus. And I feel that this Mercury retrograde is building off of that Venus retrograde. So Venus retrograde is where are the letting transform the old dominator culture within us, letting that die so we can open up to more of our being nature. And then Mercury's going retrograde now, and it's like, what thoughts need to transform so we can open up to more of our being nature, how to reorient our relationship to this Capricorn energy, to more of the pure essence of Capricorn energy, like everyone's been speaking about here. And I feel like this Mercury retrograde is very much going to be about starting conjunct with Venus. You know, Venus is the beauty way. What within ourselves, our way of thinking needs to be alchemized so we can open up to more beauty, to kind of breathe more beauty into the world, to speak more beauty into the world, to be, you know, more beauty into the world here. And the Cancer full moon we have on January 6th is at 16 degrees, moon in Cancer, sun in Capricorn, and Mercury's right with the sun there. So with that Cancer full moon, I feel some really powerful insights going to come through on all of these themes. Mercury meets the sun the next day, kind of seeding a new 4-month Mercury cycle. And that Cancer full moon, the sun is conjunct and Mercury conjunct Uranus, you know, the higher mind, our wild genius kind of energy. And the moon is sextile Uranus. So I feel like there's going to be some big insights that are going to come through. And it's Uranus is in Taurus, right? The wild genius comes through our bodies, the wisdom of our bodies. So yeah, I think, and I'm a little bit all over the place here, but yeah, just weaving in. I got so many new insights as I was listening to all you beautiful priestesses share. So thank you.
Oh my goodness, we are so amazing. And just so you know that as we are speaking, we are in high ceremony. So as you are listening, you are experiencing the high ceremony that we have offered you here and the beautiful intentions and insights and so on. So hopefully this has been really inspiring and helpful and supportive to you as we come into the solstice and new year time. And we look forward to seeing you all again when we get ready to explore the next season that will happen in January as the sun gets ready to go into Aquarius. So happy New Year, everybody. Happy Galactic New Year, everybody. And just sending you all our love and appreciation for having the opportunity to get to share this with you.